Right now, you can pick up a ball, pull your arm back, and throw it without thinking. A dog brings one to you. Your brain calculates distance, angle, timing, and speed, and your shoulder launches it like a biological catapult. That ordinary motion is one of the oldest tricks in the human survival manual. It is older than writing, older than farming, older than our own species. Long before humans built cities, we were building reach. The question is, how did a primate with soft skin and mediocre teeth figure out how to turn a stick into the weapon that changed everything? To answer that, we need to go back before the first spear we can prove existed. Way before it. In 2007, primatologist Jill Pruetz and her colleague Paco Bertolani reported something remarkable at Fongoli in Senegal. While chimpanzees were making hunting tools, they selected branches, stripped away leaves, shortened them, and sharpened one end with their teeth. Then they jabbed those tools into hollow trees where small primates called bush babies were hiding. The chimps were not throwing elegant javelins across the savannah. This was closer to aggressively checking a hole with a pointy stick. Still, the basic idea was there. Make your arm longer. Put the danger farther away. That means the intellectual seed of the spear may be older than humanity. Our ancestors did not need a lightning bolt moment of genius. They needed curiosity, hands, and one deeply reasonable preference. Not putting their face next to the animal they wanted to stab. But humans had an advantage that chimps did not. Around 2 million years ago, with early humans such as Homo erectus, our bodies began changing in ways that made powerful throwing possible. A more flexible waist let the torso twist. A lower, wider shoulder allowed the arm to rotate farther back. The upper arm could store elastic energy and release it in a violent snap. Your shoulder became a slingshot. Researchers led by Neil Roach showed that this combination is unusually human. Chimpanzees are enormously strong, but they are terrible pitchers. You're physically built to wind up, aim, and send an object away at speed. Long before the spear appears clearly in the ground, the launching system was already attached to our skeleton. So imagine the experiments that followed. A branch breaks with a sharp end. Someone thrusts it at an animal. Another person straightens a longer branch and discovers that distance helps. Someone else scrapes the tip with a stone flake until it narrows. There was no inventor standing up to announce Spear version 1. There were thousands of tiny improvements, copied because the people using them came home with meat more often, and what creates a huge problem for archaeologists. Stone can survive for millions of years. A wooden spear usually rots until it becomes absolutely nothing. So the oldest spear we find is not the first spear humans made. It is the rare survivor of a technology that may already have been ancient. The first major clue comes from Kathupan 1 in South Africa. There, archaeologists studied stone points dating to roughly 500,000 years ago. These were not simply sharp rocks that happened to look useful. Many had damaged tips and modified bases consistent with being attached to shafts and driven into targets. Jane Wilkins and her team made replicas, fixed them onto wooden spears, fired them into animal carcasses, and compared the damage. The pattern matched. 500,000 years ago, an extinct human relative was making stone-tipped spears. Think about what that requires. First, you must shape a stone point without snapping it. Then find a shaft with the right length, weight, and straightness. Then cut a socket or resting place. Then bind the two parts tightly enough that the point does not fly off when it hits something extremely unhappy. This is not one tool. It is a system. Wood provides reach. Stone provides a cutting edge. Plant fiber, sinew, hide, or adhesive holds the partnership together. If any piece fails, your dinner runs away or turns around. Yeah, quality control mattered. But here's the strange part. Although the Kathupan points are older, the oldest surviving piece of a worked wooden weapon comes from Clacton-on-Sea in England. Found in 1911, it is a section of yew wood shaped to a sharp point and dated to around 400,000 years ago. Only part of it survived. That was enough. Its maker had selected yew, a wood valued, because it is strong but flexible, and scraped it deliberately with stone. This was not someone grabbing the nearest crooked branch during a panic. It was material selection. The weapon began in the mind before it began in the hand. Then, in the 1990s, archaeologist Hartmut Thiem was excavating beside an open cast coal mine near Schöningen, Germany, when the muddy lakeshore delivered something extraordinary. Complete wooden hunting weapons. Not fragments. Not mysterious scratches. Carefully shaped spears preserved with animal bones, especially horses. Recent dating work places the famous hunting horizon at around 200,000 years ago, although older estimates made it considerably earlier. Either way, these weapons belong to humans who are not Homo sapiens like you. And the craftsmanship is ridiculous. Several shafts were made from straight spruce or pine trunks. The bark was removed, knots were cut away. The hardest wood near the base of the tree was positioned toward the point. Some are tapered at both ends, and their thickest section sat forward, much like a modern javelin. They were engineered to fly. In a modern experiment, trained javelin athletes threw replicas and struck targets from as far as 20 meters with enough impact to be deadly. That does not prove every sconning and spear was always thrown. Some were probably thrust, but it destroys the old image of primitive hunters waddling up to a horse and poking it from arm's length. They had options. More importantly, they had a plan. A horse can outrun you without warming up. It can kick hard enough to rearrange your skeleton. To hunt several horses near a lakeshore, a group had to choose the terrain, approach without scattering the herd, position hunters, coordinate the attack, and then butcher a huge amount of meat before scavengers arrived. The spear was not a solo invention. It was a group technology. Here's what makes this so important. Before the spear, strength and speed largely decided who ate whom. Humans were not winning that contest. We had no claws, no protective hide, and teeth that would embarrass a serious predator. The spear changed the rules. It let planning defeat muscle. It allowed several ordinary bodies to act like one enormous predator with multiple points. It also changed food. Large animals contain dense packages of calories, fat, skin, sinew, bone, and marrow. One successful hunt could feed a group for days and supply materials for cord, clothing, tools, and shelter. Better access to meat supported larger social networks and encouraged more cooperation. Hunting rewarded communication. Communication improved hunting. The stick was reshaping society. It was also reshaping childhood. A lion is born with claws. A human is not born knowing which tree makes a straight shaft, how to read hoof prints, where to stand when herd turns, or how to strike without getting trampled. Those skills must be demonstrated, practiced, corrected, remembered, and taught again. That makes a spear more than hardware. It carries invisible software. Every hunter inherits discoveries made by people who are already dead. Which wood bends without breaking? Which stone fractures into the sharpest edge? Which knot holds when blood makes everything slippery? The weapon improves because knowledge can accumulate across generations. One person has an idea. A child copies it. A grandchild makes it better. That is culture doing evolution at high speed. And then Neanderthals push that relationship to an almost absurd extreme. In 1948, excavators at Leringen in Germany found a wooden-used spear about 2.4 meters long lying between the ribs of a straight-tusked elephant. The animal lived about 125,000 years ago and was one of the largest land mammals in Europe. For decades, some researchers wondered whether the spear and elephant had ended up together by accident. But a detailed study published in 2026 found cut marks on the ribs and vertebrae showing that Neanderthals had early access to the fresh carcass, removed meat, and likely opened the body. Combined with the spear between the ribs, the evidence makes Leringen one of the strongest cases for a successful Neanderthal elephant hunt. An elephant with a wooden spear. You do not improvise that after lunch. You need knowledge of the animal, the landscape, the weak areas of its body, and the people beside you. You also need courage, although at that point courage and terrible decision-making are standing extremely close together. By the time Homo sapiens spread widely across the world, the spear was no longer one object. It had become a family. Heavy thrusting spears held dangerous animals back. Lighter javelins were thrown. Barbed bone points gripped fish and prevented wounded prey from slipping free. Different tips were made for different bodies, distances, and environments. Then humans added a lever. By at least the later Ice Age, hunters were using spear throwers, often called atlatls. The device looked almost insultingly simple, a short board or stick with a hook that held the back of a light dart. But it effectively extended the arm, creating a longer throwing motion and launching the dart faster and farther. Your arm had invented an extra arm. Some surviving European spear throwers were carved from antler into horses, mammoths, and other animals. Even a survival tool became art, because humans apparently cannot leave a useful object undecorated for more than 5 minutes. And this upgrade changed who could deliver force. You no longer needed the strongest arm in the group, to create a fast, lethal shot. Technique, leverage, and practice could do more of the work. That widened the pool of effective hunters and made distance itself part of strategy. The animal did not merely have to escape the person it could see. It had to escape a point arriving from somewhere else. With spears and spear throwers, people could hunt from the Arctic to Australia, take fish in rivers, face enormous Ice Age animals, and protect camps from predators. The weapon was cheap, reparable, and built from materials almost anyone could find. A broken point could be replaced. A damaged shaft could be shortened. The technology traveled because the idea was more durable than any single object. Later, farming in cities changed its target. The hunting spear became the soldier's spear. Mesopotamian infantry carried it. Greek hoplites built walls of points with it. Roman soldiers threw specialized versions before closing in. For most of recorded history, the most important battlefield weapon was not the sword. It was the sharpened stick. That makes sense. Swords require large amounts of good metal and skilled labor. Spears require far less material, give the user more reach, and can turn a line of frightened people into a barrier that even cavalry must respect. The first hunting advantage became the backbone of armies. So here's the full picture. A primate learns that a pointed branch keeps teeth at a distance. Early humans evolved bodies capable of violent, accurate throws. 500,000 years ago, toolmakers combined stone, wood, and binding into composite weapons. At Clacton, a sharpened U-tip survives the impossible. At Schöningen, balanced wooden spears reveal skilled hunters working together. At Laringen, Neanderthals bring down an elephant. Ice Age humans add spear throwers, barbs, specialized points, and eventually carry the same basic idea into organized warfare. Now go back to that ordinary throw. When you pull your arm behind you and launch a ball across a yard, your body is repeating the motion that helped turn a vulnerable ape into the most dangerous long-range predator on Earth. The spear was never just a stick with a point. It was the moment humans learned that imagination could reach farther than the body. If you enjoy discovering the ancient inventions still hiding in your everyday life, there are plenty more waiting here.